seen our earlier episodes, this is the third episode, but the second time we're going over the wisdom booklets. And oh hey Karisu. Um and the wisdom booklets, if you're not familiar, well, the IBLP is the same thing that the Duggars were part of, and the wisdom booklets is their homeschool curriculum. And I'm not going to go. You can watch the
Well,
other
the
episode,
IBLP
the first
is
episode and the second episode, to get more of an idea about that. Anyway, but so let's go. Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into this one. Um, so the 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 verse for this booklet is uh yeah, verse and a half is when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. So yeah, and he was sitting. Yeah. So I predict we're going to talk about a lot about disciples and mouths, probably teaching, and maybe sitting, but I don't know about sitting. What do you think? Well, yeah, that's true. I, I didn't make notes about what it talked about. Another thing I wanted to point out is down here at the bottom. If you look at the page number, it starts with the next page after the end of the previous book. I'd forgotten about that. Like this is all like one, supposed to be like one thing. So, all right, yeah. Um, all right. So page 32, we've got the words for the book. Sit, disciple, open. Ah, I didn't catch open. Did I? Nope, I said mouth. And taught. Let's see. All right. So this is where we start getting into sort of the meat of it. Um, so this first highlight here I have, it says, there's a basic similarity between the study of mathematics and the pursuit of discipleship. Both what? The first highlight on page 33? Oh, did you have something to say? Oh, okay. Bring it up. Okay. Okay. Sure. Did you? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, okay. See, after the first one, after the first wisdom booklet, I just I just skipped this first quiz because it's like kind of silly. But you're right. Let's see. Are any of these questions true false? Um, Okay. Well, Corinthians 4 2, 2 Corinthians 4 2. Let me pull that up. Well, I just don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to miss context, just in case to see. All right, so I'm going to read this out of the World English Bible. Okay, but we have renounced the hidden things of shame, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, but by the manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. Okay, so uh true. Yeah. I would have to say true for sure. Yeah, it what does it teach me about here if I had to answer with true or false, I would say that it teaches me to only use true methods. There you go. That's my answer. My final answer. Yeah. No, so whoever had this book and scanned it, they answered the question false. Yeah. Well, I think that might have been the person grading it. Put the X over both. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were teacher books, and actually, I didn't download it, but there is a teacher booklet for this booklet on the website that these are available on. It's the only one that I think that has the parent teacher key. Um, so somebody went through this and answered the questions true or false and put that in the teacher key. Somebody did this. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me that these people did not know what they were doing when they decided to write educational material? Uh, I mean, it's both. It is both. It's all it is. But this in particular, I mean, I don't see how you get brainwashed by having not true false questions and saying it's a true false answer. That I don't know how that get. Well, sure, sure. And we talked about that last week, but I was specifically talking about I don't know how giving a true false answer possible answers for a question that's not a true false question. I don't know how that does brainwashing. That's just bad misunderstanding English, I think. Yeah, maybe. No, they're gonna just go by the answer key. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I remember last week the questions were true false questions. That's why I just kind of ignored these because they didn't really have anything to do with the rest of the book, and I was just like, well, and I didn't even look at them in this one. I need to take a better look at the questions in book 3. Yeah, yeah, for sure. You ready to move on, or do you have more on page? Yeah, I just read all of them. None of them are true false questions. Yeah. Oh, I think I figured it out. The bold part is the true false. You're supposed to read the bold part, and is that bold part true or false? And then the question is just like thought provoking questions. Well, yeah, but I mean that's like in an honest educational material. That's what this would be. No, no, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I never had a good understanding of what blasphemy was, other than it's the thing that if you do it, you will go to hell no matter what, because God can't forgive blasphemy. But like, I never understood what blasphemy was. Hmm. Well, sure, but I've also heard blasphemies like what is it? Misattributing the works of God to not God. I mean, no one can say for sure this is what blasphemy is, and that's kind of a control mechanism. Like everyone's afraid to do all these things because no one knows what it is. Oh, okay. All right, you ready to go to the next page? Okay. Do you have any notes for this page? I just had the that what the words were. Uh, no, I don't. I'm not going to try to sight read that. Not tonight. Um. Uh huh. Yeah. Okay. I didn't look it up. I don't know what it, I mean I think it just means follower, doesn't it? Okay. Right. For sure. No. No. Anything else on this page? Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm excited to get to some of the later pages because there's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. 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 It's it's so like how much they add into the text to make to change the character of Jesus. Like we don't know what his voice inflection was, or pauses, or emphasis, or eye contact was. They're just, they're saying, nope, Jesus did this and he did it perfectly. And you're like, how do you know that? Hmm. Okay. All right. So here on page 33, I'm going to start with, I assume you don't have anything on the first paragraph. So I'm going to start with the second paragraph where my first highlight is. It says, there is a basic similarity between the study of mathematics and the pursuit of discipleship. Both require personal discipline and strict obedience to absolute laws and principles which develop godly behavior. And no, that's not how math works. My note was studying mathematics requires obedience to the laws that develop godly character. And that's just not true. It's but they addition and subtraction. Yeah, but yeah, so but I mean there I think I say this is because Like, they really know the mathematics is the only thing they can hang a hat on that is actually real, and 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 so they're trying to, like, they really have to nail in that mathematics come from God, because everything else they talk about is made up, completely made up. But if you get to sure, but what I'm saying is, like, the concepts they're talking about, they're all made up. But mathematics, like, assuming they teach mathematics, which they don't, and we'll get into that again, because I think that's going to be probably be a running theme in this series. Uh, uh, but if someone were to learn mathematics, they would say, "Oh yeah, mathematics works because that's because of how we've developed mathematics. It does work. That's how we model reality." Anyway, so the next three highlights, I kind of they're one kind of idea I had. It says, what is the significance of the suffix ology used in academic courses? The suffix ology means the science of or study of. In 500 BC, Heraclitus put forth the notion that logos or abstract reason was the organizing principle of all reality. Thus, ology is often used as a suffix in words naming areas of study which offer the reason for a particular portion of reality. Christ is the true logos, and we must therefore see every scientific discipline through its relationship to Jesus Christ. And for one, this whole idea of it strikes me as a bit of Platonic idealism, which is not something I would have thought they would be into. Uh, and then it says also, because my other note was because Jesus was called a word that uses the same root as ology, it does not mean that science is related to Jesus, but they're certainly trying to make it that way. Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, but I'm just saying, yeah. That I'm just saying the they're using the etymology of words and just saying, oh, because the etymology matches, they mean the same thing. So yeah, yeah. I had a guy tell me this week that the way to know how a word is supposed to be used is to look up the etymology. And I was like, that's just not how that works. The word only means what I use, what I mean when I say it. But yeah, people who try to wordsmith you on the meanings of words because that the dictionary says it's something that's so ridiculous. I mean that it helps, but it doesn't affect what I'm trying to communicate. The next highlight I have, or did you have any more? Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. No, I was just asking if you had any more. Okay. The next highlight I have is if the laws and regulations in a family, church, or nation are to be effective, each individual under the law must accept its discipline. And I just my note on this was you were right. They're bringing in the whole umbrella structure pretty quickly on. I should have known they would. I I mean the whole that's one of their pillars. True. Yeah, well, family shouldn't. The church, there's certain times where the church would have regulations. I mean, any group you were a part of is going to have like codes of conduct that you have to be in part of that group to be part of that group. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Um, oh, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. You have anything else in the second column that you had notes on? No, that's fine. No, we're good. I mean, we'll just keep going. We may not get through this book today, but we'll go through as much as we can. Um, yeah. Okay, so my next highlight is how does God use the motivation of winning to encourage discipleship? Paul used running a race as an analogy illustrating the winning in the Christian life. And my only note is on this is just I thought it was weird because this is in the medicine section and like there's nothing about medicine at all here. I just thought that was kind of weird. Sure. I don't know. It's for what they're trying to do with this series of booklets is tie Matthew 5 to like all of scripture. And so in their minds, like at least that's what it seems like. In their minds, all of scripture is like not Matthew 5, but the Sermon on the Mount. All of scripture is kind of like pointing to the Sermon on the Mount. At least that's what it seems like. And so I mean, I guess that's why they feel free to bring in whatever verse because all of scripture, I mean, the Sermon on the Mount was like well, other than as far as like teaching and doctrine, the Sermon on the Mount was the climax of the Bible. It's the focus of the whole Bible. Because it's like the time where God himself comes down and says, "Hey, this is how you should be." You know? And it's like I think there's a couple of times where he does that as well. And uh but this is like the most like I don't know, it's the most dense part of the Bible where he's telling people where God himself is telling people where how they should be in person. Anyway, I think that's why they focus on the Sermon on the Mount. Sure. All right. Do you have anything more on that page? Okay. Um Page 34. Okay. This first. So, what is the hidden lesson of the Maccabean revolt? Um, yeah. That's such a weird thing to say to me now, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to highlight this concept that it pervades all the IBLP, which is everything that happens in life, no matter how mundane or uh, how normal it is or how abnormal it is. Everything has, not just because of what's happening in the spiritual world, but it's also there's analog events that mirror what's happening in the spiritual world, and that's what the hidden lesson is going to be about. It's hey, this Maccabean revolt. Well, what's the spiritual analog of the Maccabean revolt, and what can we learn from the spiritual analog or whatever? And it's getting you into thinking, oh, looking around the world and everything that happened, and say, oh, not only what am I doing that caused this to happen, uh, like magical thinking was. Like, I mean, obviously, like if I drive too fast and I run off the road because I'm driving too fast, that's a physical like consequence of what I was doing. But also like, well, God allowed me to run off the road because I fell asleep in church on Sunday or something like that. It's that, but also how am I running off the road spiritually? And everything in life happens like that. It all has a spiritual meaning. It all has a spiritual cause, and that's what they're trying to get with this. And it's going to be a running thing. It's something they do a lot. It's as pervasive as the umbrella. Yeah. I mean, I knew that was a thing. I don't know much about them. I mean, I do kind of know because I read the story that's later on in the book about it. But but before that, I wouldn't have known anything other than it is a thing that happened, and that it was a revolt again by the Jews against whoever was in charge of them at the time. No, it wasn't Rome. It was before Rome. It was it was the after Alexander the Great died, like his empire split into four empires, and it was the one that was in charge of Judea at one of those four empires. I forget which one it was. I think salute sell. Go ahead. Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah, no, that's after. That's when the second temple was destroyed. Yeah. No, yeah. And then the second one I have highlighted here is how does math build character? And it's just, you know, uh my note on this is it's they think that if someone has a character quality, it will apply in every aspect of a person's life equally. You know, I might have discipline in like doing math, but that doesn't mean I have discipline in other thing in other parts of my life as well. Eh, right, right. I mean but yeah, it means that like a person with character, it doesn't have character unless they have character in all aspects of unless they have that same character in all aspects of their life, and that's just not how people work. And I mean, I if I would even say, they're using that maliciously. They're because they know that's not how people work. All right. Do you have anything on? I mean, this is just the table of contents, and I just picked those out of it. All right. Here we go. This I did you. So this is what is an advanced trading journal? This is where you record work your own stuff uh through going through these booklets. Do you remember doing that? I don't remember doing that. Okay. Um, yeah. Another note. Have you heard the podcast? I pray you put this journal away. Okay. So it's a guy who's autistic, and he found his journal when he was an adult, but he grew up with the Duggars, and like in and at their church, and so he did this podcast where he just reads through his journal entries. Um, and he's out of the IBLP now, but he was in the IBLP when he was writing the journal, and he just talks about his experiences and his kind of how he views those events in his life now, and it's really interesting. Kind of heartbreaking, but yeah, it would. I didn't keep a journal back then. I know I tried, and I just never had. I never had the I don't know the diligence to keep with it for more than a week. But it would be kind of interesting to be able to go back and see what I was thinking at the time and say, oh man, young Sam, you just had so much to learn. Oh yeah, sure. Huh. Yeah. The other thing I had about this thought was it makes me wonder if there's some ulterior motives here. You know, if you can get the kids to write in a journal, the parents now have access to that. So, yeah, but so there's that. Do you have anything on this page? Okay. Uh, Page 36 is missing, so we're now on went from 35 to 37. So I have no idea what was on page 36. There may not even been anything on it. Maybe that's why they skipped it. But my first highlight is the world will translate this dynamic as genuine enthusiasm. And my note is just they're trying to differentiate the world's perception from a true Christian perception. Uh, I know. Uh, and the next one is the main word elements are N and Theos, and I already talked about this. I hate people who argue from what a word means because it doesn't matter what it means. It's what matters is what I'm trying to communicate. And if I use the word wrongly, that doesn't change what I'm trying to say. Um, sure. Now that I would agree with because you do want to try to understand what the person was who wrote it was saying, and you can't just ask them. You can't clarify. So there is some interpretation, and that does help with that. Right. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Um, but in this case, they're trying to say the word enthusiasm. They're trying to tie enthusiasm to being from zeal for or from God, and they're using the etymology of the word enthusiasm to say nope, enthusiasm. It's not enthusiasm if there's not God involved, and that's just right. Okay. Then we got the next two highlights. We've got enthusiasm can be generated by our emotions or by our spirit. Storing up enthusiasm in our emotions is like trying to start a poorly tuned car on a weak battery. Each attempt to start the car becomes more difficult. And then, if we're properly motivated, both people and vehicles function best when they operate in harmony with their designer's intent. And it's just to me, I said my note is this just seems like a bunch of metaphysical nonsense. But they are trying to say that enthusiasm only comes from the spirit. If your enthusiasm comes from emotions, it will not last. And I mean, it's just I would say, I mean, obviously, I don't believe a spirit exists, so like it only comes from your emotions, and I think enthusiasm does come and go. That's just kind of how it is. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything on this page? All right. Let's see. We got page 38. Okay, so here, this story is about this guy who, the next few pages are a story about this guy who was playing professional baseball in the early 1900s, got fired from his job, or from being being on the team, and had to go to like a farm team or something, and then he went to become a salesman, and it's a he's one of those like an early version of those self-motivator speakers, like those grifters are. What? Yeah. But anyway, so this highlight, it says he'd just gotten going down. He'd been being paid at 175 a month at the old team, and I was only getting paid 25 a month. This is why I couldn't feel very enthusiastic on that kind of money, but I began to act enthusiastic. And my note in this is just like the last time, where they made a list of the right way to use discernment versus the wrong way to use judgment. And then in their example, they use judgment all the way down. They're doing the same thing here. The person in their story isn't getting the enthusiasm. He's pretending to be enthusiastic. It's like I don't even understand how they could fumble this so badly. Like, I don't know. It boggles my mind that they would say, "Oh yeah, this is a good story about enthusiasm," and the guy says, "I didn't have enthusiasm. I just acted enthusiastic." And it's like, well, okay, great object lesson there. Do you have any notes on this page? Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, next page. Okay. Oh, I just this is kind of funny. And I know they didn't write this. Well, when I first read it and I highlighted this, I didn't realize they didn't write it. I've at some point, we'll get to that. I have a note about it later. So, okay. So they say 25 a month to 185 a month, an increase of 700%. My note in this is 25 to 185 is not a 700% increase. It's a 740% increase. This is not being disciplined about mathematics. Yeah. Um, I know, right? It's just so, yeah. Yeah. But like I said, they didn't write this. I didn't realize it when I highlighted that. So like they just copied it out of somebody. The guy who wrote this in 1949 didn't do his wasn't disciplined about his math because that wasn't the point of his book. Um, so the other thing is, the guy in this excerpt and in his book, I assume elsewhere, references Dale Carnegie. Do you know who Dale Carnegie is? No, no, it's a different guy. Dale Carnegie. Have you ever heard the book How to Win Friends and Influence People? Okay, so Dale Carnegie is the guy who wrote that book. And the book itself, if you've never read it, it's a glorified manual for how to be a used car salesman. It's full of methods on how to get people to like you so that you can manipulate them. Yeah. I mean, and there's it's always the whole thing is like people like you more if you do this and not that, or people like it when you do whatever, and it's like, and then you can sell to them, and it's like, holy crap, it, this is a handbook for grifters. This is not a handbook for being a good person. But yeah, so I just thought it was interesting. I mean, obviously they've taken some ideas from Dale Carnegie as well, but in the IBLP, but they look at this fake person and are like, yeah, that's who we want to be, and we're going to teach you how to be good Christians by trying to be this guy. So, do you have anything on this page? Okay. All right. So my first note is on this page is I I before I got to this last page, I was like curious because I was like, this story sounds it's either made up because there's like some a lack of detail. You know how some preachers will just make up stories about things that didn't really happen. And so I was like, okay, did they make this up or did this really happen? And so I searched it and I found that they had taken it verbatim. I was like, oh my god, they plagiarized this. But then I saw this citation at the end and I was like, oh okay, they at least cited the source. But I spent a page of reading it thinking they'd plagiarized the whole thing. And I don't know if they had permission to republish this. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But at least they didn't plagiarize it. And then the second highlight. So it says one day a season. This is about a guy who wanted to be a Marine all his life. He joins the Marines, and on a one day a seasoned Marine drill team put on a demonstration for the men in training. The young man was thrilled and awed until he overheard one of the Marines make a comment which destroyed all his joy and excitement in being a Marine. The old Marine said, "I'm glad to get this over with. So good. I'm glad to get this over with, so I can get out of this lousy uniform." My note on this is don't ever show their point is don't ever show a lack of enthusiasm because you might cause someone else to stumble. And it's just that manipulation to fake it till you make it, but not only that, fake it so that you don't cause someone else to fail because you're not faking it. I mean, it's just self-reinforcing bullshit. Well, sure. Yeah, yeah. Or I really wish. I mean, like it's same thing. Like you can also, it's like having doubts. You can't have any doubts in church. Like if you show doubts, that's like really bad about anything. So you just don't have doubts. You don't, or at least you don't ever express those doubts. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, it's just more. It, I'd never realized how much they wanted you to be fake when I was growing up. You know. Yeah. No, you're obviously. Do you have anything on this page? Okay. The next note I have is on page 46. Do you have anything between those pages? We got Greek words here, which of course we do. Yeah. Um, all right. And so now we get into the story about the revolt of the Maccabees. And it talks about, these sons who started a rebellion in some town because the emperor was forcing them to sacrifice pigs on their altars. Yeah. And so they revolted. Um and so my note here is uh when evil rulers like Antiochus Epiphanes afflict God's people, it is usually God's judgment for apostasy among his people and God's motivation for his people to call out to him for deliverance. And it's more that, like I think I've mentioned it before already. It's that, things don't just happen because people are being bad. Bad things happen to you because you did something wrong. Like like and they we'll get into this later, I think. But they say there's three different kinds of sickness, but and they say that in theory, but in practice it's always the one kind that's you did something wrong. It's never the other kind of sicknesses. Yeah, okay. I got some Deviant says exactly, Fantomx11 and Martel, you are both are very correct. And again, the underhandedness of this educational. Oh yeah, I mean this is bad. It's trying to keep and oh, she says it's the underhandedness of this educational material for children too young to have developed serious critical thinking skills is, and there's an emoji with tape over their mouth. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's trying to keep you from developing those critical thinking skills for sure. Then we got, because you're not just responsible for your own salvation, you're responsible for everyone else's salvation too. Fake it till you make it, or grandma will burn in fire for eternity. Yeah. And what about God's responsibility? Well, he's only responsible for the good things, and when he does bad, it's on you too. And it's called divine judgment. And divine judgment is always a good thing, even when it involves killing of children. I mean, absolutely, even that's 100% correct. Uh yeah. Anyway, so yeah, one thing this whole story, one of their points about this whole story is uh they want to point out that what the Maccabees did resulted in devastation for the Maccabee brothers. The father survived, but all the children were dead. And what God wants us to do is, if we have to resist authority, nonviolent resistance is the only thing God wants us to do. And like, I mean, I don't think it's by accident that they say, oh, if you have to, if don't resist authority, but if you have to, do it non-violently. So, do you have any questions or thoughts on this? What do you mean? Because they talked about the Maccabean revolt? Well, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot of, it doesn't seem like there's a direct line from that to this for sure. Uh yeah. Okay. I have overall notes for the next section, which is I want to read the character qualities and definitions and see whether we think they actually apply to mathematics. Oh yes, we're talking about mathematics. Uh yes. And again, this is how they teach mathematics. We're not just learning, this is, we're supposed to be learning how to do mathematics. So, yeah. All right, so first character quality is this is a list of character qualities that you learn by or you develop by learning mathematics. So, wisdom, which is seeing life from God's perspective. How do you think that applies to mathematics? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we probably won't do that because that's just going to take up time and like, well, I mean, yeah, but also like the character qualities, they're not teaching math. They're saying, but by, hey, we're not going to teach you math, but by learning math, you'll get all these character qualities. And let's like here, boldness, confidence that what I have to say is true and right and just in the sight of God. I mean, there's just no through line from mathematics to that. There just isn't. It's just weird. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I did, so this first one, I mean, I just made the point, they're still not teaching mathematics. Um I did forget to mention that they try to be, one thing they advertise this for, as was, uh they advertise it that humans learn best by analogy, because if you understand one concept and you can make an analogy to another concept, you'll have a better understanding of the other concept as well. And I think that's what they're trying to do with this. Like, I mean, this is kind of this is kind of a normal, maybe middle school problem, but still, but they are trying to just, they're trying so hard to just try to make analogies to real life for their mathematics. Which, I mean, I honestly, I think math is probably the best way to best thing you could analogize to, because I mean it is how we model reality. And then the second highlight, have you've seen this kind of uh problem before, where they give you a series of numbers and you're supposed to figure out the pattern? Um, have you ever heard of premature closure? Okay, so premature closure, it's a thing that most people do, and it's once you have, um, you think you have figured out the solution, you stop, you stop looking for the pattern. And one example, that the guy who explained it to me, he gave me an example of like 148. What's the pattern there? Well, no, it's three then four. But but So do you think you know what the pattern is? Okay. Well, a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, well, 3, then 4. So the next one would be 13 because 8 plus 5 is 13. But that's not the pattern. The pattern is just each number is bigger. And so, like, I don't know. This isn't necessarily strictly about IBLP, but I do, after learning about premature closure, this kind of math problem kind of makes me say, I think that's not great to teach kids to find this pattern and then stop looking. You should be looking for other solutions. Yeah, multiple solutions and see if there's any other things that could fit. Let's see. My next one is on page 49. Oh yeah. So here, enthusiasm, we've got musical notes, which like doesn't have anything to do with math at all. I mean, I guess you do use like quarter notes and half notes and stuff, and so that they use that, but what does that have to do with what they're asking? They're asking you to fill in these last 2 notes so that it matches. And that's just not math at all. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is the juicy section, in my opinion. All right. So this first highlight I have, if you see, it says, if we fail to study each subject as it relates to God, we will be in danger of the spiritual and intellectual plunder which Satan brings through. And so, like, they're trying to scare you from going outside of their prescribed curriculum to get an education, because if you do, you're going to get lies from Satan and be corrupted, and you won't be a pure vessel for God or whatever. And it's so that's gross. Second highlight I have is there are 3 things which Scripture identifies as wonderful. The first one is the works of God. Then the second one is the creation of man. And then the third one is the plagues of Egypt. Do you see any problems there? Sure. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's the thing I see with that. First of all, you got the works of God is the first thing, the creation of man, which is also a work of God, and the plagues of Egypt, which is also a work of God. So, like, you basically just got the works of God in this list. And I agree with you. The plagues of Egypt, why is that wonderful? I mean, if you're going to say 3 things are wonderful, and you're going to highlight 3 things that God's done that are wonderful, and the plagues of Egypt makes the list, I mean, what the hell? Yeah. Or, yeah. I mean, at least they didn't say the flood. So, and then the last thing I highlighted is evolution is a foundational tenet of the religion of humanism. And, like, I mean, I didn't know this at the time because obviously I learned from this, so I didn't know what humanism was. But humanism has been around for centuries, like centuries longer than the theory of evolution has. So it can't be foundational to humanism. Humanism predates evolution. So, like, they're just making stuff up and portraying. They're portraying. I mean, obviously, as a young Earth creationist organization, they're not going to say evolution is good. but they're just misrepresenting it so badly, and it's just boggles my mind that they did get away with it, because they did. I didn't know, not until actually, yeah, not it was actually, what first led me to know that humanism, that evolution didn't predate humanism, was watching the Tudors, and one of the characters says, "Hey, we're I like this book. It's based on real humanist principles." I was like, "Humanism? Well, this is like way before Darwin." So, right. Okay. Well, we have we have months, or just or holidays. Okay. Right. R- Right. Yeah, for sure. I, yeah, I mean, yeah, evolution is that way. I so many times I hear people and they say, you know, this scientific theory says this, or this scientific theory says that. The most common ones would be evolution and Big Bang. And it's like, well, that's not what that says. And I don't even have a very great understanding of these things, but I know that what you're saying is wrong. It's just not what it is. But because they've only gotten their knowledge of what this says from people who are misrepresenting it in order to keep their narrative from intact. These people, they don't know. They think they know, and they don't. Um, did you have anything on this page? Because I know this is. I figured you would have some things to say about this section for sure. I had a lot to say about this section. Oh, okay. Uh, okay. All right. So here we go on page 54. We've got so this first one, it says anyone who believes that an unborn child is not a person thereby denies the personhood of Christ while he was in the womb. And I thought that was an interesting take. I don't remember hearing that as an argument for the pro life crowd. I mean, I'd heard, the fetus is a person, but I never heard it like directly tied to the personhood of Christ. Sure. Yeah. I just thought I don't remember that part of it ever being brought up to me. I mean, obviously it was because I'd read this, but I don't remember. It never clicked with me that that was a thing. Uh, Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they deny that numbers 5 is about it, abortion. It's about a lady's leg rotting off so that she's a one-legged person now. Well, I mean, of course they ignore that. Remember what I said about what they said back here, where it says not not letting Satan influence your study. The second highlight I have on this page is they talk about creator, and this is from like 1984, 1985 is when this was written, and so they hadn't done the switch over. The creationists hadn't switched over to the term intelligent designer. They were still using creator, and I just wondered, I wonder if they would if the IBLP would have ever switched over to intelligent designer, or if they would have kept with if they like if I had material from today, if it's still going to say creator, because like the ATI, they still have some of these books are still available on their website, but I'm not paying for them. I don't think they do them like in person, but you can watch the whole seminar and get the books on their website for free. Yeah, it's still the ones we watched. Well, yeah, I mean he wasn't a sexual predator then, so that's the past him that wasn't a sexual predator. We got a comment from Deviant. It says it's a conflation of concepts. Jesus was God. Mary's pregnancy was a magical event. You can't mix magic with reality. It's like sawing a person in half and bringing surprise when the cops come knocking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's why it never hit with me that they were, because obviously Christ existed before the the conception of Jesus. Like he existed since the beginning of the world. So like he didn't become a person when at the conception. So that I don't know whether or not a normal fetus would be a person or not. Christ would still be a person in the womb because he already existed anyway. So that I mean to me that just doesn't make that wouldn't have made sense even as a if they made that. I said, well, you're talking about two different things here. Okay, so this next one is genetic engine. This is where the false philosophy is genetic engineering. I don't know what this has to do with Son of Man physiology. How those compare with the false philosophy of genetic engineering. But they say genetic engineering is the branch of science that which is endeavoring to manufacture life in a laboratory and to manipulate the structure of that life. If man can create life, then life is his to destroy as well, or he will be in control. And like, I don't know if they know this, but like, there's nothing that we eat or breed that hasn't been genetically engineered by man. Like, that's just kind of how everything has been. Uh, Maybe like if you hunt wild animals, I guess those haven't. But any cows have been like anything we breed has been genetically manipulated through artificial selection. So like every plant that everything that farmers grow, everything that people livestock we have, it's all not the way it was before we got a hold of it. So yeah, we've been doing genetic engineering for a very long time. Sure. Right. Well, and also the fact that like how much we have to shear them. I mean, that's something we bred into them as well. Right. Huh. I mean, when you deny reality, you can just make up whatever you want and believe it. Okay, so we got this next highlight. The third aspect of the wonderful works of God are the plagues that he allows in the lives of those who live contrary to his principles. What do you think about that? Oh yeah. My notes on this are sickness is a moral failing, plagues are a moral failing. It's so gross that like if you're sick, it's because you did wrong, and and you need to fix what you're doing wrong, or you won't get better. And and that's hurt so many people because yeah, like mom, like people they don't go to the doctor when they could get help, they could get healed, but because they've been told that it's because of something that they're doing wrong, they spend their time trying to fix what they're doing wrong. And they may not even be doing anything. Yeah. Yeah. And so here we go to the false philosophy that's related to this. Medical treatment based on humanistic propositions works at cross purposes with God. On the one hand, it destroys the value of life by turning the normal birth process into a surgical ordeal, encouraging sterilization, performing many unnecessary hysterectomies, providing destructive birth control, and finally killing unborn children and unwanted babies. On the other hand, it seeks to prolong life in artificial ways and circumvent God's physical judgment for wicked lifestyles. And it's like, and that's the same thing. Like, it's not just don't go fix your spiritual problem because that's why you're really sick, and the doctor will just treat the symptoms of why you're sick. But it's actually immoral to go to the doctor because yeah, um, and then yeah. Well, not just go to your pastor first and not your doctor. Don't even go to your doctor because it's immoral to do that. Like that's I'm surprised so many people in the IBLP are still alive. Yeah. Hmm. The other note is I just don't know how they know how many unnecessary hysterectomies are being performed. Like that's They singled that out in their list of things that are going on, and it's like of all the different surgeries and things we can have, it's the unnecessary hysterectomies, and we know they're unnecessary. So where are you getting this? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just that was super weird to me. Did you? Oh yeah, you didn't read this one. Okay, so let's move on to the next page, and we've got pseudopsychology. Yeah, pseudopsychology. That's the false philosophy. Um, says, oh, that's why I didn't go help for CPTSD for so long. I just knew that if I prayed enough, that I would be healed. Exactly. I mean, and people who buy into this, they do that. It's. I don't think it's quite as bad as at least it wasn't in our family. It wasn't quite as bad as like say Scientology, because we would still go to the doctor when we were sick, but still, it's pretty harmful to have this as your ideology. Well, I can say that none of us died from not going to the doctor. That's true. You're right. You're right. The right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It because it was God's will, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Um all right, on to this pseudopsychology. So I mean they've flipped the script here. The the Christian God-based counseling is the pseudopsychology, and they're calling the real psychology pseudopsychology. That's my first note. Um and then so psychology based on human reasoning confines itself to the study of man's soul, the psyche. Consequently, it is not able to accurately identify the real causes which affect man's mind, will, and emotions, which of course is spiritual. Uh, I mean, again, it's just like everything else. It's spiritual causes for it all. It's not, it- and uh, the accredited medical community and psychological community, they just don't acknowledge the spiritual, so they can't properly treat anything. I mean, yeah, I mean they don't know that when you wreck, it's because you masturbated yesterday. Obviously. Okay. Let's see. They had page 55 twice, so we'll skip that. Page 56, we've got yeah, so Panda says bullshit. No thetic counseling drove me to the brink. It is. You got it. I'm not sure. Let me look at that up. I assume it's uh Christian based counseling. Yeah, it's pastoral counseling that uses the Bible to address problems and change a person's behavior. Uh, So, I mean, the way I look at it now is, you know, and what doesn't make sense to me is like we look at this stuff and we just say, okay, what's working the best? Let's do that. What's working the best for the most people, and that's what we should do. And the Christians are like, no, that's it. It does just because the numbers of people that are being helped by this is more than the number of people that are being helped by ours, it's just wrong. It's you're missing it. And but the numbers don't lie, you know? No. No, I have not. Oh, yeah? Huh. Sure. Really? In counseling? Weird. And did they have a verse that said, "Thou shalt know thy wife's passwords"? Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, it allows them to ignore the statistics if they want to. And that's dangerous because if you're ignoring the statistics, you are almost by definition not necessarily doing what's statistically best. And that's yeah. 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 All right. You ready to move on? Okay. So we've got here page 56. I only have one highlight on it, and it's says the yeah, deviant for sure. Deviant says, "Yeah, a successful marriage is built on upon mistrust. Wonderful, not communication, respect, equality. No, screw that mistrust. That's the way." Makes her so mad she can barely joke about it. Um, yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean, mistrust is not a way to build a trusting relationship for sure. It just the idea that it could is just I don't even know how you could get to thinking that. So. All right, so we've got the false philosophy, prehistoric man and primitive societies. The basic deception is that man is improving with time, and factors other than immorality cause civilizations to collapse. And like, I've heard this a lot. I remember hearing this that that empires fall when the populace becomes immoral. And honestly, I don't really know about that. I don't know if that's true or not. But the highlighted part is the facts now prove that these primitive people are actually decadent descendants of civilizations that were more advanced in many ways than we are. My note on that was I don't think there's any civilization that was more advanced than we are today in the past. I, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's absurd on the face of it, at least for sure. So I have no idea. It boggles my mind. Even I don't know what they could be thinking of. They're just it would have to be some kind of like philosophy or something more advanced. Maybe. Yeah. So I thought it was weird for them to just say that. And I remember hearing this when I was a kid, and I don't remember really accepting it. I said, well, maybe they. I mean, obviously, when like there's a societal collapse, you're going to have you know more primitive times right after that societal collapse. You know, when people have to like uh farm to just survive, they're not going to spend time learning about things that aren't farming. So you're gonna lose that knowledge. But at this point, I don't think anyone's like ever been more knowledgeable, or any society's been ever more knowledgeable or advanced as we are. And I'd say that's probably true for the last 300 or 400 years at least. Yeah, yeah. So it's just absurd on the face of it, like I said. What's right? Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I it seems like that to me on the face of it. I just don't know enough to know if there actually is a causation there. Uh huh. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. 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 Okay. Well, so what I remember hearing is like the Roman Empire. Um, that yeah, there was people stealing and stuff afterwards, but I remember hearing that they were had gotten morally decadent before the collapse. Um, with orgies and the colosseums and all that stuff. Sure. Okay. Okay. We got a comment from Deviant. It says the basic deception is that man is basically good. Today's criminals are protected by their ability to plead temporary insanity, even if convicted. Repeated appeals clog the courts. And where to begin with that? It's not only false, if you draw it to its real life conclusion, it's immoral to the core and the end of human rights. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm to say that this is problematic, that anything about the IBLP is not problematic would be an understatement for sure. But yeah, I think the idea that man is not basically good is probably pretty. I don't think that's limited to just the IBLP. That's pretty ubiquitous in Christian theology, I would say. Because yeah, I'm because of the fall, we're all partakers in the evilness of Adam's sin. All right, let's move on to the next page. We've got geology. Um, Geology is the records of God's past judgments upon the land for the sins of its inhabitants. Soil that abounds with thorns and thistles is God's reminder to us of Adam's sin. Strata of sediment and erosion formations in terrain are lasting monuments of the worldwide flood which judged the sins of civilizations in Noah's day. Expanding deserts are evidences of God's judgment for sin. He withholds the rain, directs invading armies to cut down trees, or brings locust plagues to devour the land. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and violent storms are further demonstrations of God's might in judgment. I mean, yeah. I mean, again, it's that through line of everything that happens, there's a spiritual reason for it. Clip what? I'm not sure. I probably can. Let me make a note of what time code it is. Yeah, I know, right? Well, I mean, yeah, that the idea that the geological column is from the flood. That's pretty ubiquitous. That's not unique to these guys. But but just like volcanoes are it's so magical thinking. It's it's almost ridiculously magical thinking. Like I feel like we're in Pompeii, you know? Exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah. Huh. All right. The next one is humanistic geologists require billions of years to add plausibilities to their theories and of the origin and present condition of the Earth's surface. And I mean, like, they, they're just misrepresenting it. It's they didn't say billions of years because that's what it required. They said billions of years because that's what when you start looking at, hey, how do we date this and you start finding methods to date this stuff, that's what the answer comes to, and but yeah, yeah. So, uh, it's billions of years. No, I hadn't heard that before. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know one of the elements will decay into lead. I know that. Right. Okay. Okay. I thought you were being sarcastic. Okay. I thought it sounded like you were being like making an argument that a young Earth creationist would make, or right. Yeah. So, but it's just more misrepresentation of science, and that's all they do. Okay, we've got here. Music is a form of worship. Its rightful employment is to reflect the holiness of God and to praise the mighty acts of God. God intends for all art forms to symbolize spiritual truth and be consistent with his character. God created earthly things to be object lessons for heavenly realities. All music, art, and literature must glorify God. It must be pure, orderly, and edifying. And my note was, oh, um, oh yeah, we'll get to that second. I didn't make a note for that. So, I mean, it's just like it's just art is reflective of your spiritual health. And if you don't have art that Bill Gothard likes, you're spiritually unhealthy. Uh, uh, yeah, yeah. Didn't they sing Peaches? Oh, that was Crash Test Dummies. Yeah. Yeah. And then their false philosophy is music and art and literature are amoral. The false assumption is that every person is basically good, therefore, whatever he or she creates is also good. No, I wouldn't say that all music is good. There's some that I think is like really bad, but not morally bad. It's just really unpleasant to listen to. I don't know. I don't. I don't. I don't feel judgy about music. There's music I like and music I don't, but it's like that's just not for me. Someone else likes it, but I don't know. Oh yeah. Huh. See, I mean, I don't know the song you're talking about, but like, it, if you want to live in a double wide trailer because that's what you want to do, who am I to tell you no? I mean, Yeah, maybe. And on the other hand, I mean, if you don't like music, there's nothing wrong with not liking music. There's plenty of music that I'm like, I don't like. Well, that's true. I don't. There's no. I don't think there's any music I don't like that because it's morally objectionable. Except maybe some of the more rapey music. I probably would say that's probably not great morally. Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully I don't get demonetized for that. All right. I'm not worried about it. I'm not monetized. I don't think I ever would want to be. I just want to put stuff out there. Um. All right. Now we got mathematics. Um. Yeah. That. So mathematics confirms the fact that there are absolutes in life, and that we can make accurate calculations based on them. And what was my note? My note was it's weird to me to think how they think mathematics again. There's that Platonic ideal. And it's just math is how we model reality, and that's all it is. Like if you think about it, math that's everything mathematics is modeling reality. Like if you have one apple and you have another apple, you have two apples. That's where we get one plus one. You know, sure, sure, but no matter what, every mathematics has no purpose and no like the only thing it does is model reality. Like I came to that realization while reading this when I was thinking, oh, actually, that's all it does is model reality. It doesn't do anything but that. So, so it's just weird to me that like they're like, I don't know, the way they view mathematics is just weird to me. Uh, I, no, everything they view is weird, but mathematics is weird too. Let's see. So the next highlight is radical surgery is being recommended for those in high risk categories for cancer. This preventative surgery is devoid of the knowledge that by following God's principles, even a high risk person will avoid disciplinary diseases. And that is, yeah, that is just gross. It's, you can cure cancer by getting right with God. And it's like, that isn't how cancer works, like at all. And it's really gross. And I keep saying that. I don't know what else to call it. It's right. Yeah. I'm sure people have. Like, yeah, it's yeah. Um, I, I mean that's how they get you. They reel you in with this like stuff that does sound right, sounds decent, and when they in the basic seminar when they talk about like how to get rid of bad habits and get rid of addictions, like some of that stuff is like okay, I think that could work. And then they just incrementally bring it on, and it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse until they've twisted your whole way of thinking, and so you can't. They've molded your thinking so that you can't see anything but what they tell you. And at this point, you're like, I've got cancer because I'm sinning, and if I just stop sinning, I'll get my cancer will go away. And it's yeah. So I'm just glad none of us had cancer because we would probably not be here now. Maybe. I don't think our parents bought into that much, to be honest. They I think they still would have taken us more psychological. Well, that too. But I do think they did ignore psychological problems we might have had, uh, because of this stuff. That that's true. I think I last time I looked, I thought it was just still 5, but I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. Deviant saying it's still DSM-5. Sure. Well, sure. I mean, that's actually, we'll get into this in the next point. I mean, that's to be expected. You know, we don't have knowledge until we have it. So, like, you would expect, for the most part, people in the past will have less knowledge than we have today. Um, so no, that's not. Yeah, I know. Which brings us into the next one, and choose. The basic deception is that truth is constantly changing. Humanistic logic begins with the theory, which is observed until it becomes a thesis. Reaction to this thesis is called antithesis. As these two discussions converge, a synthesis is formed. This synthesis becomes a new thesis, and the process repeats itself. By this process, men are ever learning and never able to come to knowledge of truth. Now, in some ways, they're hitting on something that I do agree with, which is, um, I I believe truth exists. And truth is like, I forget what it's called, but there's the definition of truth, which is truth is that which correlates with or comports to reality. I don't really agree with that exactly. I modify it. I think truth is that which comports to context. So if your reality is your context, truth is that which comports to the reality. But if Spider-Man comics are your context, then truth is that which comports to Spider-Man comics. If that makes sense. Why? I no, so philosophers, in my opinion, the best philosophers don't argue about the meaning of words. They clarify the meaning for the conversation, but they don't say, "Well, you meant this when you said that." Because it doesn't matter what you think they meant. To me, that's the best philosophers do that. Well, I'm just yeah. But so my thought is, they're saying truth is constantly changing. What I was getting to is, okay, so if truth is that in the context of reality, because that's most people when they say truth, that's what they're talking about. Reality isn't changing. Or, I mean, it does change, but like the fundamentals of reality aren't changing. So I don't think truth is constantly changing. I think they're lying here, but they are talking about something which is our understanding of the truth is constantly changing. And I mean, it's like, yeah, as we learn more stuff, we learn more stuff we didn't know before. And if you learn something new and you just reject it because you didn't know it before. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're like, we learn new things, but we're going to reject it because we didn't know it before. And it's like, that just is fundamentally a stupid thing to do, in my opinion. Right. Exactly. I, right. Okay, we've got, uh, Panda and Deviant are both saying that, DSM-6 is about to be released sometime in the next few years. So, we're still DSM-5, DSM-6 is imminent. Um, yeah. Well, no, that's just an example. You now knew something you didn't know before. So you shouldn't dogmatically say, "No, we're on DSM-7." Sure. I think that was, Socrates, but anyway. Okay. Oh, right. That I forgot about that guy. Okay. Fair enough. Uh, all right. So only one highlight on page 60. All power comes from above and are under the government. And as you predicted, they're hinting at the umbrella. So I don't really have much else to say about that one. Okay. Yeah. I didn't I so uh so what happened here, I have a note on this page. What happened was I highlighted it and didn't save it, and when I went back, I noticed I didn't save the highlights, and I when I came back and looked at it, I couldn't figure out what I was making this note about. But, somewhere they talk about how, uh, Christians shouldn't be involved in rule or something, which I don't know that IBLP follows that, but at least they put that in here, on spiritual things and not on ruling a country. And I just like, hey, it's interesting to see a fundamentalist organization that isn't a Christian nationalist, because like you would IBLP would be the textbook Christian nationalists in my opinion. The- yeah, I think at in reality they are, but they're saying they're not, which is even saying they're not. Like I don't think any Christian nationalist today would say they're not. They may not say they're not Christian nationalists, but they would say that they should be in charge of making the laws. Right. But they would say, and the only way to do that is by putting us in charge. I mean, they say that. Right. Yeah. But that's this story, and it's talking about the history of their version of the history of law, starting with Charlemagne and God's law in the Torah, Alfred the Great, Magna Carta, uh, then early United. Yeah, Charlemagne. He's at the very beginning. Yeah, they talk about how he like memorized entire passages of the Bible because he was illiterate, and really focused on his what he memorized as when making laws and stuff. Well, they can't acknowledge Hammurabi because if they do that, it predates what they say is the origin of law, and that can't be. So they can't. Right. Yeah. So Anyway, Deviant says, I'd say that's a blatant lie on the part of the IBLP. They absolutely want to actively actively works to create a theocracy. It's in that documentary. I can't remember. Are you talking about Shiny Happy People? Yes, I know. That Shiny Have you seen Shiny Happy People, T? It is. It is. But yeah, they're totally. Yeah. 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 I definitely was like, oh yeah, I remember that and that and that and that. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't really have any notes on this. We've got some notes on this, which is this is their medicine resource. It's 2 pages on how the mouth and vocal cords work. And Deviant says, I love that for you that you were seen. And uh and so like again, just like with the eye thing last time, although in this one they don't really like tie it to any anything spiritual directly. They're just talking about, hey, here's how you talk. Here's how your vocal cords work. Here's how you make sounds. And it's that's it. It's just kind of randomly not and like anything else they did, and also not something a first grader should know on his second week of school. And it's in there because Jesus opened his mouth and spoke, saying words. And so, therefore, you talk about that. Because why not? So, anyway, that is the end of the book for this week. Yeah, we did want to say what the most toxic thing is. So, what do you think the most toxic thing is that they said? Sure. Sure. What? Sorry. You said just world fallacy. I'm not familiar with that. What's that? Okay. Sure. Sure. Yeah. And it's weaponized too, because so our mom, she gets sick and she thinks it's God punishing her. But even more than that, um, it's when she sees someone else sick, she's judging that person, saying, "What is that person doing wrong?" I don't know that our mom does it, but that's what people this type of people would do. Because of this is it's you're you are failing. I'm sick because I'm failing, but also you are sick because you're failing. And what are you doing wrong? And it goes back to that. It goes back to the thing that stupid toxic thing from last week where they're like, I can tell by their face that they've got like, I don't even remember what it was, but some stupid. Yeah. Yeah, that. Oh yeah, man. I would say, I mean, so my most toxic thing is related to that, but it's definitely it's a little bit specific. It's definitely the cancer thing that you can that don't go. It's morally, and it's kind of a synthesis of part of this thing, but it's morally wrong to go to the doctor for your cancer, because your cancer is because you're doing something wrong, and by going to the doctor, you are yeah, you're co-opting the judgment of God, and that's like that is by far the most toxic thing I took from this book. Right. Yeah. So, all right. Let's let me I think that's the last page. I don't and we did a almost toxic thing. We read the last few comments. So Steven says yes, that's the one about the documentary, and she's happy that you got seen. Um, Panda says it's a terrible ideology. I think that was in reference to the Just World thing that you were talking about. Could be. Deviant says, phew, I thought you were going to say the end. I'm starting to get addicted to this show. So I don't want to hear anything about ending anything but the episode. Okay. Oh yes, for sure. See, I first of all, Deviant, thank you. I think I'm enjoying making this. I hope T is as well. Um, but no, I don't see. Still want to keep making this. We've got 50 of these booklets, and then we've got other things we could go through if we stay interested in it. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, we got 50 of these booklets to go through. PEMDAS. Yeah. Well, no, because but people think we're doing mass stuff, and I don't want them to come here looking for mass stuff and find this. Okay. Because it's math, right? Math, you. Anyway, okay, so but no, even we're not going to end this. We're going to keep this going. Uh then we got Deviant and Panda were talking to each other. So, anyway, that's it. We will talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any last words, T? For sure. All right. Thanks, guys.